Hey guys, it's Di from BeingMommywithStyle, and we're going to Walt Disney World again. Today I wanted to do a video about going back to Walt Disney World and that question that you get a lot. I know I get it in the comments sometimes, different variations of it, but people will even say this to you in person of, oh my gosh, you're going to Disney World again? And then there's the unimplied why afterwards. And this is kind of one of my favorite / not favorite questions. And the reason being is because it does make me chuckle that people, first of all, even ask this. But second of all, it's my least favorite because it kind of puts you in a position of having to justify a life choice or justify where you're going on vacation, which I don't think anyone should ever be in that position unless it's like one of your personal family members and they're like, you know, it actually infects them. But it's interesting that, I mean, not even just on YouTube, I'm saying like out in the world, like, you know, people that you're talking to, like, weren't you just there is another variation of this question. And so I wanted to talk about this in two different kind of buckets, if you will. I wanted to talk about it for the people that go to Disney World often and maybe give you some ideas of how to have this conversation, because I know you probably get it too. But then also on the same kind of token, I wanted to have that conversation of why, and I've said this in other videos, so it's not like it's any secret, why we go to Disney World so much and why it is such a good fit at this moment in time. And then the other variation of the question that you get a lot is like, well, are you ever going to go anywhere else? And I have answered this in other videos. Yes, we do go other places and we will go other places in the future. We try to keep it, you know, very like short trips if it's other places. Like obviously we've gone to Great Wolf Lodge, we've gone to Niagara Falls, and we do have the idea of eventually going places like the Grand Canyon, like Yellowstone, like historical significant places, like going and seeing the Liberty Bell and possibly even Washington, D.C. And eventually someday I'd like to go to Pearl Harbor, but not now. It's not the right time for that. One, it sometimes has to do with the distance of traveling. So one, you know, going that distance. But two, it's also just their ages. And I've talked about this in other videos. They are a little bit older now. They're in 2nd and 4th grade now. And I started getting this question asked to me like when they were little, like preschoolers. Like, aren't you going to go anywhere else? Well, yeah, but, you know, Disney was kind of made for us. So we're going to keep going there until they're a little bit older. And by older, my hope is that by the time that they're in like junior high age, you know, they'll be of the age where, yes, we'll probably still do Disney, but we can go do things that have more of a historical significance and they can research it before they go and they can actually like connect with it and retain things. And I went to Washington, D.C. when I was in 2nd grade. I remember literally nothing about that trip. I went to Colorado when I was in 3rd grade and I rode the train out there and I remember the train more than I remember Colorado. So it's one of those things where like, of course we can do things and it's not all about them having memories and like we can do things for us. We coincidentally actually are talking about going out to Colorado. And we do things like that, you know, that are just kind of low-key trips for my husband and myself, like the Niagara Falls one and that sort of thing that they can enjoy as well. But as far as like doing, you know, very like taking them to the Pearl Harbor Museum and stuff like that, that is a very like in the distant future type of idea, I think, for us. And this is a personal decision. It is not going to be the same for everyone. But I think that the reason why we like going to Disney, one, it just really fits their ages, and we have kind of transitioned to where when they are younger, it was character, and we're kind of transitioning now to where they're older, and it's rides. And, you know, I think we'll transition out of that phase at some point too. But it's very age appropriate for us right now. We can go and everyone can find something that they enjoy doing, and we can do things that, you know, fit their level of cognitive ability. And it's very easy to plan. Just quite frankly, one, because I've planned them so much, but two, it's even easier to go to Walt Disney World for us than it is to go to Disneyland, because I get that question sometimes too. Why aren't you ever going to go out there? Disney World is just easier because one, it's closer to us because we're on that southeastern side of the United States. So it's closer, one. But also, it's like in its own little bubble. There's nothing really that much around it. And so you can either fly in, hop on that Magical Express and just get into the Disney bubble, or you drive there, you park, and everything's just taken care of. And there's a lot to do once you're there. There's in fact so much to do that we literally, even with as many times as we've gone, we haven't done everything. Not even remotely close have we done everything. There's still so many places we haven't eaten. There's new rides we haven't ridden. There's continually new things opening up, new shows, new treats, new merchandise. There's always something new to see there. So I think a lot of times if people are asking that, like, they don't understand how big it is. I mean, it's very, very big. It's 4 theme parks. There's Disney Springs, and then there's tons of extra things to do on the outside, the boardwalk. There's restaurants in every single resort. So there's just so much to see and do that you can really kind of make every single trip different. That being said, we will do other things. There are other places that we want to go. In fact, we're talking about going to Colorado, like Colorado Springs or something like that sometime this year. And then some of the places that I'm going for work, you know, kind of popped up my radar, like Phoenix. It looks pretty cool. Like, there's a lot of kids museums there. But those are the types of things that we're going to be doing right now. I have zero desire to take these kids to the Grand Canyon right now. Eventually, yes. Right now, absolutely not. Because I would just be a nervous wreck mess the whole time. Like, you guys just see like a little bit of, you know, like them in the vlogs. There's no way. I mean, obviously y'all have your own kids probably and that sort of thing. But, you know, it's just, there's a lot of extra safety concerns when you go into places like that that you don't have to deal with at Disney World as well. So it's a whole different bag. So one of the things that I also wanted to talk about was, if you get asked this question a lot, I think that the idea of pointing out, well, first of all, you don't have to answer anything because it's really no one's business. I mean, if they're just being nosy and asking, I mean, just tell them it's a good time, and, you know, you can answer however you would in your regular language. But if you're really kind of struggling with, like, you really want people to get, like, what it's all about, and they don't get, like, why people walk around in mouse ears, and they don't get, like, how people are so connected to this place, I would recommend telling them to watch the Imagineering story. That has really been the best media I have ever seen that really kind of captures the spirit of Disney. Spirit of Penguin. That show just captures the spirit of Disney and its essence really perfectly. And down towards one of the last episodes of that show, there was a quote from somebody that I think had worked on the original Disneyland, or it was one of the engineers or Imagineers, and he said, in a nutshell, what Disney is it is the idea that everything will be okay. And I think that's the reason why people come back, is because it gives you that intrinsic feeling of, no matter what you're going home to afterwards, or stresses of daily work and, you know, all that, for that moment in time, it's almost like you're suspended there. And it's just a very happy, joyous, entertaining place to be. And so we do get a lot of enjoyment as a family. There's a lot of connectivity time, and I do think that that's the reason why we go back a lot. And so if people have never been there and they're asking that question, it's really kind of hard for them to, you know, have that, even really understand what that means, I think. But if people have been there and they really kind of stop and think about it, it's kind of like, oh yeah, I mean, it's like this kind of step into a different world, if you will. And you get that brief moment of time where you get to drive race cars on test track, or soar over, you know, all these different sceneries, just things that you wouldn't necessarily be able to do in daily life. So anyhow, that's kind of my thoughts on that. It's an interesting thing that comes up, and I kind of, depends on what mood you catch me in, whether I'm just going to laugh it off or whether I'm going to be annoyed and be like, because I want to. But at the same time, I get why people are curious, because it's like, if I was just like, yeah, I'm going to go back to, you know, Nashville, Tennessee again next weekend, and I'm going to Nashville next weekend again. But that's something that people do. I mean, that's just like a human thing. Like, you find the things you like, and then you like doing them. And I think the same thing is for, like, people that typically vacation certain places, like go to a certain beach. Like, there's a certain contingent here in Alabama that goes to Gulf Shores every year. Why do they go to Gulf Shores every year? Because they like it. I would never ask someone that question. So I guess maybe there's different mindsets. I guess maybe the people that ask that question don't have favorite vacation spots, or they don't have that. But I guess we fall into the group that do. Oh, and actually, coincidentally, we haven't been to Gulf Shores. We might do that this year, although my husband's not a huge fan of beach vacations. He doesn't really like just going and sitting on a beach. That's the other thing, and why it is a really good vacation for us, because my husband will not just, and pretty much the kids too, to a certain extent, won't just go somewhere and chill out. Like, they're not chill out people. We can't just go somewhere and explore. Like, there has to be an itinerary. There has to be like, we're going to do this. This is probably where we're going to eat. So that's another reason why Disney works great for us, because I can literally say, here's our itinerary. These are the things that we're going to do, and these are the times that we're going to do them. And so it works really well for our family. Now, other families, if you have like a very chill, like go with the flow type of family, and you can go sit on the beach all day long, like, that's probably why that would be your preferred vacation. But that is not, I could do that to a certain extent, like just go hang out on the beach, but then I would get like stir crazy and I have to go do something. My 2 kids and my husband are even way more like, going to the beach would be like an hour or 2 like event, and then they're like, okay, what are we doing the rest of the time? So that's why we have to have very like event-oriented vacations. We have to have certain things we're doing, certain things we're seeing, and have like a schedule and itinerary. So it's just very easy for me to plan as well. And it's also easy for me to, you know, kind of relay the information, because they have the things like the My Disney Experience app and things like that for me to be able to easily share their itinerary back and forth. All that being said, are we going to go other places? Of course. Great Wolf Lodge has actually worked out very well for us to be like a quick weekend trip, and it's the same thing. Like, we can go do specific events. Like, we have a certain time blocked off that we're in the water park, certain time blocked off we do Magic Quest, certain time blocked off we do the arcade. So those types of things do work well for me. I think that because of my new position, I'm going to be traveling different places, either places that I haven't been in a while, or new, you know, like new places as well. It's going to be a good way for me to gauge certain places that we may want to travel as a family, rather than hauling the whole family out somewhere and then people being miserable for a few days. That's the other thing we do, is if we're testing out someplace, we usually go for a few days. So that way, if it's not a good fit, we don't, you know, spend too much time there. But that being said, we've looked at places like Colorado Springs. Phoenix is really kind of standing out to me as like having a tons of things to do for kids. There was just tons of like kids museums and hands-on stuff to do there. So I think that that may be a good place for us to go. So once I find those places, I think that those would be on the mix too. But you know, Disney still works great, so that's why we go. So hopefully this has been helpful, regardless of which side of that fence that you're on. It is a question that or comment that, you know, it has the underlying question that goes along with it. I do get that fairly often. So I wanted to make a video about it, but we are counting down the days. I had it marked off on my calendar, but I had to take it down because I was filming today, because I didn't want to have the days that we were gone blocked off on the calendar. But we are counting down the days, and we will see you in Disney vlogs very soon. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.